G'day guys, it's time to talk about the tow rig. So we've been travelling around Australia for the last 3.5 years, towing a 21 foot caravan with my trusty 100 series Land Cruiser, but it had a couple of little flaws. One of them, the big one, was I was maxed out on my GVM. So in combination I still had about 350 kilos worth of GCM, but the car was maxed out. Even before we left to travel doing the weights, I had to strip the drawers, the steel roof rack for an LE1, fridge had to go, second spare had to go, winch had to go, so on and so forth, just to be able to tow this van. And I couldn't find a GVM upgrade that didn't cost an absolute fortune when I had already done a lot of work to the suspension. So we just made it do. I just stripped off everything that we could, and basically we sat at our max GVM for our travels with the 2 dogs, 1 kid, us 2, full of water, full of fuel, full of food, all that sort of stuff. We sat at our max GVM if I didn't use my sub tank. If I used my sub tank, it took us over. So that was fine. I still had like 400 kilometers worth of range without using the sub tank, so I only used it occasionally, say like on the WA coast to get to that next service station. Otherwise, yeah, absolutely love that car. So we were welcoming another little boy to the family. He's now 6 months old, so we had to make a big decision. Either we spend some good money on the Land Cruiser to get a GVM upgrade done and give it a big birthday, or potentially look into a different tow vehicle. That's a whole new kettle of fish, can of worms to open up. So we started looking at the typical dual cab utes. Would love a ute with a custom canopy and stuff like that. I drove a B250 and it didn't feel like it was going to cut it. Same with the Isuzu D-Max, so I'd have to spend a fair bit of coin to get it up to scratch to tow this van, I think. My mate's Ford Ranger, I drove that and I was actually really impressed with that, so that was in that sort of ballpark. I'm like, you know what, the Ford Ranger could probably do it. But then we're like, do we actually want to ute? Do we want to just go wagon again? And the Y62 is very attractive, even though I'm a Toyota man, bang for buck, it does bode well. And then you start looking at trucks like the Ivecos and the Isuzu trucks that like Elnick and Overland Exposure and stuff have been in, Cartwrights, the Bell family, all that sort of stuff. Give you huge payload, but we don't really need that much extra payload. We're quite happy with everything that we're carrying. We just need a little bit of wiggle room. And then you start going down the path of the American trucks, the F trucks and the Chevys and the Rams and stuff like that. If you're going to stay on the road, they make perfect sense for towing. So yeah, we had to make a big decision about what we were going to do, and I think I made the most logical decision for our family, and that was to keep my trusty 100 series, as if I was going to sell it. So yeah, we've been giving it a big birthday. We've got the GVM upgrade now. We've given it a lot of work, tidied it up a little bit. So we're going to be moving in about half an hour to a new campsite. So when we get there, I'll open it up and I'll run you through all the changes and the big birthday that I gave it. And we'll run you through it. It's going to be good. I was just having a bit of fun sitting in front of Grant's big F350 from Living Like Kings. I'm about to take it for a quick test drive. Okay, we've rolled into our new spot. So we actually got here yesterday, but the weather came in as well, so I didn't get to film the rest of this. But we are at a beautiful little spot. This is a rose farm, literally off the highway. $20 a night to be self-contained, but it's absolutely beautiful here. Anyway, let's get into what we're actually here for, and that's to talk about the cruiser. Alright, so yesterday I sort of hinted at the fact that we were maxed out on our weight, so that was one of our big limiting factors, knowing that we're bringing Heath into the world. That's going to be another car seat, another little body. Liam's only growing bigger, carrying the pram again, nappy bags, all that sort of stuff was all going to add up, and we were already maxed out. Even if I couldn't use the sub tank already, so we had to sort of decide, what do we do here? But once you start looking into another car, even a second-hand car, to spend the money on it to get it up to where you need it to be to tow a van this size, we were going to be out of pocket heaps anyway. I love this car. I already know the quirks with it. I've owned it for 12 years, so for us it actually made more sense for us to keep it and to spend some good money on it to get it back to where it should be. And as of right now, I think it's in the best state that it's been in the 12 years that I've owned it. It's running absolutely beautifully and towing this van without hesitation. So let's get into what I've done over the last 9 months. So the motor I've got in this 100 series is the 1HD FTE, one of the most sought after Toyota motors. They're known to be pretty well bulletproof, but it hadn't really done anything other than basic services like logbook services in the time that I've owned the car. So I got chatting to the guys at Pro Dyno. They're based in Rockhampton. I said I wanted to give it a bit of a birthday. I wanted to do full intake clean, adjust the valve clearances, flush and change all the oils. I'm talking engine oil, the power steering fluids, gearbox oil, like everything basically. We just flushed it all, everything was all brand new. And then I got them to go over the car pretty well with like a fine-tooth comb and just make me a list of anything that was sort of outstanding. So they did that and it all added up, as you can imagine. Lots of little things wearing and tearing over the years. So they did the initial hit, they did the intake clean. I've got some pictures that I can overlay. They adjusted the valve clearances, which apparently did need a little bit of adjusting. What else did they do while I was in there? Oh, they checked over my performance chip. So I've just got a plug and play performance chip from Manta, a Perth-based company that my exhaust is also Manta. And they just had to play around while I was on the dyno, just to check that I had the right settings, and the setting that I've got it on is the best for what I'm doing, which was nice. So yeah, running beautifully when I left there. Had a big list of things to do. I then also got hold of Laurie's Auto Electrics, again in Rockhampton, because I had some problems with my headlights circuit, where my headlights wouldn't turn off, and then we replaced the fuse box, and then I couldn't use my high beam because they came on with my low beam, and it was just a headache. And I've had 4 different auto sparkies look at it, and we still couldn't figure out what was going on. So I actually got Laurie's to pull the cabling out from the relays in the bottom of the fuse box, and now I've got external relays for the headlight and high beam circuit. So they're all now working as they're supposed to. It's just no longer factory, it's now outside in its own relays, but I know where to get to them, and if I have problems in the future, at least I can just replace a relay or whatever I need to down here. So yep, electrics were sorted. The first initial hit at Pro Dyno was done. I needed to get my GVM upgrade sorted. So I was WA registered. When we were leaving WA, there was only sort of one company I could find that would do a GVM upgrade for me, but I had to put all their gear underneath, and I had already spent thousands of dollars upgrading the suspension on this car. It's a mixed bag at the moment. Like I put Bilstein shocks in the front, but then there were no Bilsteins available when I needed new rear ones. So now the rear ones are Fulcrum, which actually I really rate the Fulcrums. I've got the heavy duty EFS springs in the back. It's got the original Old Man Emu heavy duty torsion bars that the previous owner put on. Yeah, so it's a bit of a mixed bag, but it's all good gear and over engineered for, you know, without a GVM upgrade. So I actually managed to find a engineer in Queensland here that was willing to sign off on the car as it stands. Only to the 10% extra. So the GVM was 3,260, it is now 3.5, so I got an extra 240 kilos, but for us that's actually all we really needed. We don't want to carry anything extra, except for a few little things we've added, but then we've also taken stuff away. So 240 kilos in the car is huge, and now that takes me to what the axles are rated to as a combination anyway. It's 1550 kilos in the front and 1950 in the rear. So yeah, just having that extra 240 kilos is huge for us, and we don't really need anything more than that. So finally got myself a mod plate now, which is pretty exciting. We will get our setup weighed again. We've got some friends that we're hopefully catching up with in the next few months that do weighing on the road, so we'll catch up with them and do a full weigh again. But The only one I would potentially be concerned about now is the rear axle, but I don't have any drawers or anything, so I think we should be okay, but time will tell. Anyway, I'm really happy with how it's all towing and sitting, so I'm not going to change anything just yet. Yeah, cool. So where are we at? We've got the electric sorted, we've got the first hit from Pro Dyno done, got the GVM upgrade sorted. I wanted to give it a bit of an aesthetic upgrade now as well. So I'll show you the previous picture of the car in here. Look at those rims. They were just old and tarnished and missing hubcaps, and they were just disgusting. And I had on the wish list for a long time the ROH hammers. They're dirty at the moment, which is a bit sacrilege, but absolutely love them. They just really help finish off the look of this car, especially with the black and white theme, instead of having those sort of chrome rims there. It's yeah, these are wicked. They look great. They're nice and easy to clean. That's why I picked the hammers. So that was a bit of a want, not a need from me. And then the other thing we did was tint. So we've got nice new tint the whole way around the car. The old tint was on from the previous owner before me, so excess of 12 years ago, and it was just peeling, and every time you wound the window down you could hear it sort of crunch and whatnot. So it was, yeah, disgusting. So got all new tint. Luckily there was a guy in Yeppoon that did it. I think it was $550 if I remember correctly, to remove the old tint and put the new tint on. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. And then in the rear, if you remember, I can overlay a bit of footage from when we were down at the beach in Yeppoon. We were cooking at the back of the car. The back here was basically just storage for the dogs. I couldn't afford any more weight, so there was no real reason putting anything in here. But now that we've got a little bit more wiggle room, we need to carry like the pram and things like that, I looked into a bit of a storage solution for the back here. So the first thing I found was a new cargo barrier. It's not actually a cargo barrier as such, it is a pet barrier. I don't think it's rated, so it mounts sort of to the headrests and then up to the grab handles up here. And then I opted to get the little light shelf up top as well. So I keep my spare hoses, belts, some specialist tools, some cabling, first aid kit, picnic blanket, all that light stuff now lives up top above Curie. We can carry Liam's bike in here. Curie sits in here, and as you can see I've got this nice big carpeted shelf. This is just a homemade out of ply and MDF, but basically it just lifted Curie up and allowed me to store stuff underneath. So like we've got the pram in there, behind here's my tool bag and the compressor lives in there. We can carry Liam's scooter and helmet and the dog food, and it actually just allows me to keep some stuff in here now. All up, the shelf itself weighed like 5 to 10 kilos, I think, maybe even 7. I didn't actually weigh it, but it was very light. I maneuvered it in here by myself. So that was a real good, cheap and easy and light option for me to have a bit of storage in the back of the car. And it's been in here now for probably close to 6 months. I did this just before Christmas, I think. And it's just been wicked and easy enough for me to replace if it ever does fail. But I've reinforced it and stuff. It should last for a while. So yeah, pretty excited with the back of the car now. It's not perfect, but we're now pretty happy with it. The other thing we've got is I've always had the one spare. Before we went traveling, I actually carried 2. Not really sure why. I didn't get that many flats, so we didn't really go that off-road. But I couldn't carry the second one because it was an extra 15 kilos just for this arm itself, plus 40 kilos for another rim and tyre combination. So that had to go when we wanted to travel. So that was sitting in storage. We got all our stuff sent over from WA over to Yeppoon in Queensland, where we were based for the last 10 months. So when we decided that we were going to continue traveling, I decided to put it back on the car because I'm going to get the gas bottle and the jerry can that usually lives up there off the roof of the car and down onto the back here. I'm in talks with our mates at Concise Engineering. They've come up with a design for me that looks like it's going to work really nicely. They weren't quite happy with the prototype, so they're modifying it for me, and as soon as it's ready we'll get them to send it over to me and we'll put it on. But it'll be nice to get them off the roof. They're a bit of a wind drag up there, so I always try and take them off when we're not towing, because when I'm towing this, I'm towing a sea container anyway. But it would be nice to get them off the roof, especially like when we go to the shops and stuff. I'm already 2.3 meters tall with them. It limits really where we can go, so I always got to remember to take them off before we go shopping and stuff. But it is what it is. So yeah, pretty excited to get that sorted soon. I also just gave the car a big birthday. Like, I pulled the whole back section out before I built that, folded the seats all the way forward, pulled up all the carpet, vacuumed, cleaned, pulled all the panels off, cleaned all in there, as well as yeah, a nice big birthday. And then that sort of took us to just before we were ready to hit the road. But while we had Heath, so Heath was born in November, we raced to the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was lots of kangaroos and emus on that road between Yeppoon and Rockhampton. So I said to Clem, geez, I wish I had some spotties now. We never bothered. My old spotties were dead, so I just removed them a long time ago. But our theory was, if we're driving at night, something's seriously wrong with young kids. But it does tend to happen, like you go out for a sunset, or you go out for dinner with some mates on the road or whatever, and you're going to get back to camp driving at night. And then for that emergency situation, like running to the hospital in the middle of the night, spotties come in handy. And I didn't realise how bad my headlights and high beam were until I put these spotties on. So very conveniently, Vic Off-Road actually emailed us and said, hey, we've got some new spotties, are you interested in trying them out, doing a bit of review? So I literally did that video last week. You can go back and check that out. So I've got some nice new spotties on the front of the car, and I don't use this word too often, but they've been a bit of a game changer for that nighttime driving now. Like I said, I don't know how I managed for so long without them. So yeah, everything was running beautifully. It went back into Pro Dyno right before we left that last week in Yeppoon, and just got the last of the works done, like gearbox mounts, one of our axle seals, one of our CVs, tie rod ends, I think. Just yeah, a whole bunch of just wear and tear items underneath the car all got replaced. They did another service because it was, yeah, 10,000 Ks in between those two visits. So yeah, now it's running absolutely beautifully. So yeah, fingers crossed, no more issues. But then in saying that, actually, I forgot about this. Just as we left, we went up to Mackay for me to do my last thing at work, and my starter motor failed. So I did that one myself. So I've got a brand new starter motor in there. It's nice and shiny still. So yeah, now, fingers crossed, nothing else holding us up, and we can just get back to traveling with this big, beautiful girl of mine. So there you go. I'm definitely hanging on to the 100 series for a while. It's not going anywhere. It's still my pride and joy. As lovely as Grant's big F350 was to drive yesterday, it would be hard pressed to get me out of one of these. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got something out of that. Just wanted to give you a bit of an update. I know a few of you had asked what was going on with the car, because you knew I was running a bit maxed out beforehand. So with Heath and that, yeah, a lot of you did know that something had to happen, and yeah, we'll talk about GVM upgrades in the comments and stuff, I guess. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.